All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending our webinar today. We are glad to have you here. Welcome to an introduction to Range Meat Academy. My name is Sam Gajczak. I'm the communications manager for AMP, and happy to have you all here. And very happy to have Carrie Underlee from Range Meat Academy here as well too. It's not often we get a chance to talk with someone who literally wrote the book on meat cutting, but we've got that opportunity today. Right earlier this year, AMP got into a partnership with Range Meat Academy, which is an online school that helps teach meat cutting throughout the industry. And as part of that partnership, Range is graciously offering a 10% discount to all AMP members who use their services. So Carrie's going to explain a little bit more about that. Carrie Underlee is the founder of Range Meat Academy, and she is a third-generation butcher, and her work in the meat industry has included developing and marketing value-added beef cuts like the flat iron steak. And she has also, as I said, written the book, The Art of Beef Cutting, a meat professional's guide to butchering and merchandising. So, Carrie, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, making sure that we've got everybody invited. So, yeah, if we could, like I said, we've got someone who literally wrote the book on meat cutting here. And Carrie, you said that we've talked before, and you said that butchery goes back on both sides of your family. So maybe you could kind of give a little introduction to yourself and kind of how you got into this.
Oh, sure. Great. Thank you for the warm introduction and thank you, Sam, for putting this together. We really appreciate having this opportunity. So yeah, my background is generations deep. Oddly enough, both of my grandmothers were butchers. My grandmother on my dad's side, she butchered during the Depression and lived on the farm, so definitely a homesteader. My grandfather and my grandmother on my mom's side of the family were both butchers. My dad was a butcher, so here I am. And that's why I'm having hand surgery next week. No, I'm just kidding. So meat cutting has been obviously in my life for a very long time. I started with my dad's butcher shop. He then continued his career onto the local grocery store, and that's where I apprenticed for 3 years to become a journeyman meat cutter. So that's a beef. See what I did there? A brief background of my. Like you said, we'll have questions at the end. If you would like to know any more, please give it a shout. One thing about questions throughout the presentation, I thought we would, if you could put them in the chat as we go, and then at the end, Sam can help us go through them. So I think I will get started on the presentation, and thank you all so very much for attending. We all truly appreciate it to help spread the word and learn a little bit more about meat training and education. So at the end of today's webinar, we are going to give away 2 sets of Range Meat Academy knives. So it's it's a 7-piece with a storage case, as you can see. So what we'll do at the end is we're going to ask you a question, just thumbs up, thumbs down in the chat. Hopefully everybody can find the chat there, and then we'll just randomize 2 winners at the end, and you guys will know before we leave. So make sure you stay the end and check that out. And lastly, but not leastly, most importantly, I would like to thank our sponsors once again, AMP. So Howdy Partner, and helping us spread the word and partner on this important initiative. And then Bunzel is also going to be giving away a $100 gift card, good towards any of their products. So Sam will follow up with that one after the webinar is over. We will be recording the webinar, so just so you know that it is a recorded presentation. So let's get started. Embracing the future of meat cutter training now with Range Meat Academy LMS. So let's just talk about a few trends about apprenticeships. So when we're talking about apprenticeships here, we're going to look at the overall group of apprenticeships. So the Department of Labor has there's been an increase of 64% for apprenticeships since 2010. So there's been a real push to highlight more apprenticeship programs. That means that there's over 700,000 apprentices that are currently obtaining their skills. But what we've noticed, they're also helping wage apprenticeship programs to help them with financial security. So this is all part of the U.S. Department of Labor, and you could look this up. I think it's like apprenticeship.gov or Apprenticeship USA, but we could not, excuse me, we could not find that many registered meat cutting apprenticeship programs. So it is something with the federal government that you need to apply with. So oddly enough, we talk about apprenticeships, but I personally cannot find that many official registered programs. So in-house training. With these programs, we are here to help you recruit. So we want to attract employees. We want to develop. So once we recruit those employees, we want to develop their skills so they can advance and stay with the company. And also, obviously, to retain. Once they've gone through training, they're more satisfied with the company. They have pride in themselves. So again, we're here to help with in-house training to help you recruit, develop, and retain. So here's our agenda today. We're going to talk about a learning management system. We're going to review the curriculums that Range has. And then also we're going to talk about some tools to help we can provide to develop an on-site training program for your team. So let's start at the basics. What is a learning management system? So throughout the program, we're going to call that an LMS. So it is a software. It's a web-based software application designed to administrate, document, track, report, automate, and deliver your educational courses, training programs, or learning and development programs. So this is the tool that allows you to bring this together. So let's take a little deeper look here at the elements of a good LMS system. So components of an element system are content management. So, years ago when we would think about training, all I can think about is binders and binders and binders of information that we'd have to read and then sign off. With an online application, it provides you the ability to upload, organize, and manage all those training materials in one location. They could be PDFs, PowerPoint presentations, things of that nature. The other component is we want to be able to track the progress. So we're monitoring and evaluate the progress of trainees. Were they able to complete the program? How many courses did they complete? How far do they have to go? Providing that tracking ability. We hear a lot from stakeholders with us is that we have a training program, but they have a hard time on site actually manage that and following up. There's just too many tasks to do in a day, except, try to go figure out if Carrie, followed her coursework last week. So this provides you that online tracking ability. We also want to make sure in an LMS that you have assessment tools. So can you score quizzes, assignments, knowledge test questions, things of that nature. Then we also want it to be interactive. We know that folks that are in the meat room, and I speak for myself, tactile, muscle, grounding, people that like to do things with their hands. So when we sit an employee in front of a computer, we want to make sure that it's just not this, read this, check a box here kind of interaction. So we provide multimedia content, videos, pictures, whatever we want to upload. And then there's discussion forums between employees or collaborative groups for management staff. And of course, we want to report on all this. So a good management system and LMS would also need to provide some detailed reports. It could be course progress and where they're at in their learning path. So here's going to be our first poll question. So we would like you to use the chat to type yes or no. We'll get started here. So if you will, and Sam will let us know when the questions stop here or the answers stop. So are you familiar with the benefits of using an LMS system for in-house or on-site training for meat cutters? So we would ask you to put in a chat, and we'll just give that a couple of seconds. I'm sorry about this. We just had a dog fight. Sorry about that. All right, we're gonna continue on. Sam, do we get some responses?
We've got a whole bunch of no's, we've got a somewhat, and we've got a familiar with LMS, but not for meat cutter training.
Okay, all right, Great. So hopefully at the end of this presentation, we'll have a better understanding of how an LMS can help for meat cutter training. And just for the record, that was the first fight our dogs have had. I don't know why it happened now, so I apologize. Okay, so why is an LMS valuable for training butchers in the meat processor? So it's valuable for us, especially because we are a Range Meat Academy is a private vocational trade school. We are online. All of our curriculum is online. We provide training for meat clerks and customers. We empower, here we go again, to recruit, develop, and retain. Those are kind of our three buckets that we really like to drive home. Provides certificate programs characterized by integrity, innovation, excellence, and passion. So one last thing, in order to operate as a private vocational trade school, because we offer skills for job placement, we have been approved by the Illinois Board of Higher Education to operate as a vocational trade school. So that doesn't mean that our program is only available in Illinois. It's just that we had to go through the rigorous documentation and proof to get approved by the Illinois board. So we are going to talk about Range Meat Academy. It's a curriculum-based program. It's comprehensive. It's designed with responsive and interactive, engaging. Responsive meaning you can pick up on your phone or start on your phone, switch over to a tablet, or end up on your computer, and it'll pick up where you left off and save all that information. We provide certificates of completion. We issue competency badges and assessments, and we also provide the ability to have a blending learning model. So before we get any more further, we're going to take some time here, and hopefully we're going to be able to hear this. So let's see.
John, meat cutter here at Piggly Wiggly on South Kent Yard Parkway, 15 South, store 88. The meat apprenticeship program helped me review a lot of stuff that I already knew and reinforce the knowledge that I had and help me articulate it better. And I learned a lot of new things as well. I think learning about the process of raising the animals and what cooking methods work best for what cuts were probably the two most valuable things in the meat apprenticeship program, just because it helped me inform my customers where their meat was coming from and help me suggest how they should be preparing the cuts.
My name is Rainbow Lomax, and I'm at the nearest fresh meat market. I'm a meat cutter here. I started cutting when I was went into meat department when I was about 13 years old, and I've been cutting ever since. The merchandising was the very good part for me, to learn the different parts of meat I can break down and take off to make more different, money on. And other than just cutting one piece of meat, I could break it down and be able to get all the cuts out of it. That was real special to me.
Hey, my name is Ari Towner. I'm from Lanier's Fresh Meat Market. I'm the store manager, and I just finished the Meat Apprentice program. I first learned about the Meat Apprentice program at the MDI Food Show last year, and I was blown away by how all the modules are broken down into small information, and they kind of build on each other. My thing is reading stuff I don't really comprehend. But when I watch videos and I listen to somebody talking about something and they have the actual piece right there in front of me, it helps me put the name to the subprimal or to the primal.
I am Jacob Kirby, and I work at Lanier's Meat Market in Augusta, Georgia. And Wayne Lanier is my father-in-law, and I'm meat cutter and manager here. I learned a lot to start. I knew a lot of the cuts, but not all of them. The main thing that I learned, though, was being able to approach a customer and talk to them confidently about different parts of the cow, pig, or lamb, and where different muscle groups are. And I could even tell them how to cook certain cuts. I saw a lift in profit from the education that I received, and I also was able to order more different kinds of meat to cut to serve customers from different demographics.
My name is Damian Edge. I work at Lanier's First Meat Market. I'm the cube steak stir fry stew meat guy. Originally, I was front help, so I had absolutely no experience back here. At first, I didn't understand what anything but chuck, sirloin, none of that. But now I know how to identify it. I know how to cut it. I know how to locate it.
My first name, Cedric Sainsley. We at Lanier's Meat Market, and I'm basically the hamburger man. I had previous meat experience, but it built my confidence more stronger than from the beginning when I first started. And it helped boost my pride when I cut it, because I feel more prideful, especially when I cut a good cut.
I'm Jacob Black, and I work here at Lanier's Fresh Meat Market. This is a business that's been in my family since the late 1960s. My great grandfather opened this in, I believe, 1969, and I'm a meat cutter. So I come from a background with some experience outside the program, but what I really liked about the program was the cooking section, and it helps me help the customer by letting them know, if you don't have enough money for this really tender, expensive piece of meat, you can get something that's cheaper and still cook it very well, and it will be just as delicious. And I also learned it all helped solidify what I already know in like a very good way. Like I'd recommend anybody doing it. Confidence is key.
Well, thank you for listening to that. A few things that I wanted to point out. We had a new employee who knew nothing, and he was able to learn and apply. I really like the guy that'd been in the meat department for 13 years, or he started when he was 13. And just being able to have that pride when he cuts a piece of meat. And then also Ari, the gal, how she has different learning techniques or strategies for learning. And so when we did create the curriculum, we did have that in mind. So if you're a visual learner, if you like to read, if you like to follow steps. So throughout our curriculum, we'll tell you how to do it in written word. We have a lot of great visual photography that also is in there, but then also the video support. And that's where she really seemed to resonate with her, being able to learn in that fashion. All right. So here's our next poll question. Again, we're going to type 1 through 7, and you can put in more than one answer if you'd like. So what is the most difficult or time-consuming aspects of creating or managing a training or apprenticeship program for your team? Is it developing the materials, finding somebody to train your staff, coordinating the training sessions, how that would go down, ensuring consistent tracking and assessing the trainee's progress, as we mentioned, budget and resources, are all of the above. So we'll give you some time here to pop those in, and let's see where we're at. So I'll let Sam tell me when you folks have leveled off there and see what our results are. All right, Sam.
All right, we've got a lot coming in. We got one more. 1, 2, 4,
Okay.
5. All right. So 1 and 3 seem to be the two widest ones. We also have votes for 5, and then 4, 7, 2, and 6. So a whole lot of everything, it seems like.
All right. And we expected a little of that. So the first 2 things that I heard was developing the materials and how to schedule the sessions, or how to make sure employees are have the ability to take them, and then budget, I heard, and then all of the above. So again, we hope to address these concerns throughout the remaining portion of the presentation. So thank you for participating. All right, so now we're going to move into Range Meat Academy. We're going to get a little more detail about what our programs are and what they entail. So I would like to say up front, we're going to show you some examples of slides and another video. But after this, if you would like to see a more detailed demo of actually going into the portal, we'd be happy to do so. So please reach out to myself or Ruth if that's of interest. So I just wanted to say that up front. We can dig into this a little deeper. All right, so what are the Range Meat Academy programs? We have the Range Meat Clerk Certificate. We have the Range Meat Cutter Certificate. And then we combined the clerk and certificate into one, and we call that the bundle, which includes, like I mentioned, the clerk and certificate programs. So we're going to take a little bit deeper dive. So the Range Meat Clerk curriculum is comprised of 3 courses. Within those courses, we have 16 lessons. All of the downloadable training materials that they have in their coursework are there, so you can download information and save that. We provide certificates, competency badges, and assessments. And within this curriculum, we cover beef, pork, lamb, and chicken. And the reason why we keep those in one lesson is as we teach cut identification and attributes, they're similar through the different proteins. So porterhouse, loin chop, or porterhouse pork chop, however you want to call it. All right. So within the meat clerk, we have 3 courses, and they contain lessons. So the first section is meat essentials. This category of courses is excellent for somebody that may not have exposure to the meat industry yet. So we're going to talk about, customer service, safe handling, temperature control, types of animals in agriculture. So what's grass-fed, what's grain-fed, those kind of things about raising practices, meat basics, inspection, grading, terms. I don't want to use the word jargon, but terminology that a new meat employee may not have heard. So we make sure we cover that. What are the different types of cuts? What's a pork chop? What's a chop? What's a steak? Things that, being in the meat industry, basically since the day I was born, come right to the top of my head, but somebody new might not understand the difference between a roast and a steak. So we provide that. Now, the bulk of the clerk course really rests here in the cuts and features section. So we talk a lot about merchandising, and we did research to find out what type of curriculum folks would be interested in. And the one thing that they really wanted was to know about how to merchandise the different cuts, but most importantly, cut identification. So within our curriculum, it's how to tell somebody what a T-bone steak is. We most likely know that there's the strip, the fillet, and a bone. But how do we visually teach somebody how to recognize that? So we spend a lot of time on that. Substitutable cut information. Is it lean? What type of cooking methods would go with it? And then some fictions and facts from Carrie's Almanacs. I like that. That just kind of gives them some of those merchandising bullet points or suggestions. And then finally, the cooking methods and preparation tips. This section is key. We heard the last gentleman in the video about confidence. So, we all know that people can go to Google and get a recipe. So our coursework is not about recipes, but it's more of the how to make meat tender, talk about aging. We can talks about marination, types of cooking methods, and then the different ways to make meat tender, cutting across the grain, just little tips that you can help build that relationship with your customers. If you have a front of the house kind of experience, if you're a value add and you're working on marinades and profiles and blends, this will help them pull together different flavor profiles and things of that nature. And then, just the types of cooking methods. We just like to call this 1, 2, 3. If you're in front of a customer, how do you tell them to take that home and braise it? Brown, just give them the 3 quick, easy steps on that. So now I'm going to show you some slide examples of what you may see, what you will see in these different courses. And this particular course takes around, depending on your starting point of your knowledge, it takes about 10 to 12 hours, I think, to complete. Don't quote me on the numbers, but I think we're pretty close. All right, so in the Meat Clerk Essentials, these are actually slides from the course. So we talk about things like body language, how to present yourself in front of a customer, how to shake somebody's hand, look them in the eye, warm smile. We talk about food handling, how to wrap butcher paper, how to safely take a piece of meat from the counter. And like we mentioned before, what are the different cuts? And these are just 3 quick ones I pulled out. Now, in the cuts and features section, this is where we talked about identification. So we provide, white, airy graphics, clearly identifying the different muscle groups. We illustrate them. We provide pop-up buttons and things like that. So here we're just trying to show them that there's some multi-muscles and that there's a short rib, and these are some ways to look for it. I mentioned the detailed information that we provide. So throughout the coursework, we will list the final cuts. The meat clerk cutter section that we're in right now is, yeah, the cuts and features. I just lost my train of thought. I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. So the cuts and features section is heavy, like I mentioned, on identification, but we also, not only is it the retail cut, but it's also the subprimal. So this comes from the chuck primal. So in a chuck example, we would illustrate that there's a chuck roll, and then there's a shoulder clot, and then we break down the cuts that would come from those. So it's not just about cut identification. Here, it's also about subprimal identification and where they come from. And then we like to pepper in, pun intended, throughout the curriculum, different terms, things that people may need to know, organic, natural, those kind of things. And then lastly, the preparation, where we talked about building that confidence. We talk about degree of doneness. We provide them the next slide where we talk about where you see beef, pork, lamb, and chicken. The student or the employee could click on those buttons, and it's going to provide a list of spices that pair well with that particular protein. Now, we're not asking them at this point to build a recipe from this, but you could say, hey, you're having that great pork loin. Have you ever tried of maybe putting some dill or fennel with it, just giving them those quick tools to talk to the customer. And then we do teach them how to build marinades and flavor rubs as well. And those spices would come in depending on, what you're building the rubs for. So that was a pretty quick download of some of the highlights from the clerk curriculum. Again, if you would want to see this in detail, just let us know. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the meat cutter portion. This section can take anywhere from maybe, again, I don't have these numbers melded in my head, but I think it's around 40 hours to complete the meat cutter section. So here we have 4 courses. They're beef, pork, I always want to say beef, pork, lamb, and veal. Beef, pork, lamb, and poultry. There's 23 unique lessons. We have 10 hours of instructional video. Again, you can download the training materials and collect your badges. The key difference here is we provide you with the video library at the end of completion. So let's say you're in the beef lesson and you want to remember, oh yeah, how do I cut that flat iron steak? So instead of having to go to the beef cutter curriculum or the cutter curriculum, find the beef lesson, find the shoulder lesson, and drill down into slide 30 to find that video. That's not very user-friendly. But at the end, you will have all those videos populated and you can just look, oh, shoulder, flat iron steak, click that video for a review of how to do that. So if you are going to take that information and process something in the back of the house, obviously this would be a good tool for them. Okay, let's go through some examples of the meat cutter course. This particular one is beef. So in the beef course, we have 8 unique lessons, and they're pretty much primal driven. The first 2 is gate to plate, where we show, how the animals are raised and the process of getting it to the table. So the different ways. So it's slaughter, it's carcass wash, it's quality assurance. It just follows that whole path, transportation, and finally to the consumer. Beef quarter, forequarter and hindquarter. So all of our meat cutter courses, we start with the whole carcass. Except for beef, it's just too big for us to plop a carcass down. So we use forequarter and hindquarter to start these courses with. So these are examples of slides. Some of these slides will also be repeated with different information based on the lesson that you're in. So here in the clerk section, we were heavy on identification. Now we're going to talk about the muscles a little more detail. So we're going to provide the Latin names for some of the muscles. And we never quiz on know your Latin names. If somebody wants that course created, let me know. We'd be happy to pull it together. I just didn't think it was a big driver. So there's that click here button that'll pop up some information. The beef rib overview slide, we use all of the NAMP, IMPS codes to stay with regulation. We also provide PLU or IRMIS codes in the clerk section if you are needing a PLU code to set it up in your system. And then we talk about key terms like lip on and lip off and what that means. So that might change based on whatever primal or subprimal we're looking into. We talk about thickness. The chart at the bottom here where it says number 1, top sirloin, subprimal, those buttons are interactive. So you can click on those particular buttons and it'll provide some information about the cut. And this one, I think we're just talking about where the different muscles are located. And then lastly, the overview of the longissimus dorsi or the LD muscle. Here's where we talk about the different tail lengths. So if you're producing or purchasing, you're going to want to understand that and how it's measured. And so then we have the picture that shows the tail overhead. Again, so all the photography is, I hope you appreciate the photography because a lot of thought went into this. Okay, so that's pretty much the beef we talked about. So I call this like one cut, Charlie. I don't mean to offend anybody, but you know, taking let's say a bone-in chuck and just cutting it end to end, and then you've got these big 7-bone roast or steaks. So we will show you how to just do all the regular cuts, but then we follow it up with maybe a specialty merchandising of some sort. So in the sirloin section, how to separate those two muscles. So we show the regular cuts. Let me back up. We show the primal. So we actually show them how to break the primal on the table. So we teach them how to break the primals. We show them how to create those into subprimals. We take those subprimals and isolate individual muscles based on their quality or preference within the meat itself. And then I'm losing track of the last one. Specialty cuts where we dive in, you know, to get like the ribeye fillets or the spinalis. And then, so all the way down to the cuts. And then at the end, we show an overhead shot of all the cuts that you got from that particular piece of meat, and then reiterate any things that they're going to need to know. So in the pork lesson, we start with the whole hog. The thing that's a little bit different here, we cut half of it in a traditional fashion, and then the other half, we break it down into processing. So if you're into salumi or charcuterie, or, you know, you want to cut the hog a little different. For example, if you want a longer copa, the big collar piece of meat on the hog, you would break that slightly different. Or if you want tomahawk chop from the pork, what that would look like based on, you know, do you want to use the belly for that, or would you rather keep the belly on the other side? So we show safety throughout the courses. So we will pop up slides, and these build on each other. So safety might not be in every single course, but throughout all of them, we'll cover all these types of data sets. So we talk about, obviously, OSHA. You see the 1, 2, 3 buttons. They will click on those buttons and different information presents itself. On the right here, we have pork loin chop location. So we actually, this one we clicked on and it's showing us about the ribs. Each one of those buttons will present different information about the different locations. The knowledge check question you'll see here in the middle. These are within the coursework, and most likely these do follow up on their assessments. And in the knowledge check, you can get it wrong, and then it'll ask you to try again to make sure you understand the question correctly. We talk about yield percentages and where they're located on the pork or the hog. And then in the value added realm, we always do something else. So for the pork loin, there's some little pictures at the bottom. They might be hard to see. We might be talking about smoking the loin, Canadian bacon, a croqueta, some lardo, some lomo, cracklins, and pork rinds. So those are just different examples. So we just give them, they click on those different buttons, and that those information about that particular cut pops up on the screen. Excuse me a second. Okay. And here's the lamb course, very similar to the pork, just showing you a different, just different examples of the courses and, or the, excuse me, the slides. So one thing that I'd like to point out, we're going to start on the bone, rolled, and tied slide here on the right. When we heard Ari in the video, she brought up that, you know, reading stuff just doesn't stick with her. And being able to see a video or see pictures, you know, that provide the step-by-step, I think is really important. So this is how we would teach somebody with images and some written words instead of just words in a video. So there's just different ways of learning. The first one, we have drag and drop. So we may ask the employee, you know, to drag the different primals on the correct location of the beef, or excuse me, the lamb carcass. The next one is a push the button and information pops up about the particular primal on the lamb carcass. We also teach a lot about how to make subprimals or primals. So you have to know where those breakpoints are. So we provide that, and we lay it over a skeleton, and we do that in all of the proteins. And then on the right is a final knowledge check question. So this particular question they have correctly. Poultry, this is kind of the warm up. It's kind of the cheap meat to get them started. Sorry, poultry fans. I didn't mean it in a negative way. I just meant, you know, as an apprentice starts using a knife for the first time, we probably want to put them in front of some chicken or stew meat or something where they're not going to harm a big tenderloin, as you know. So here we have little buttons that are all checked green, which means they have to view every button before they can move on. They just can't click ahead. So we talk about safety, PPE, you know, chainmail, right, what the right boots are, those kind of things, or just wear boots in general. We provide them with kind of an overview. So what's the skill level? What do they need to set up their workstation? What kind of material they should practice on, types of tools, and the skills that they will learn in a particular lesson. We introduce the keep it cold, keep it clean, keep it moving. So we bring in refrigeration. And again, in some of the other courses, we'll even bring that out again in a slightly different way. The last two on the right are just some basic images and charts, or well, I guess a chart. And these are just kind of highlighting and showing where everything comes from. And these are all supported with cutting videos, of course. Again, these are some of these slides and data are presented in their downloads. So a couple more unique things about cutting in the poultry course. Obviously, how to break down the chicken, but spatchcock and deboning, how to make a rosette, how to talk to the customer, and then how to make poultry and sausage. So we have a video on that for chicken sausage, actually. Maybe turkey, but I think it's chicken. All right, so that is a very quick breakdown of kind of what the courses entail. Again, the bundle is both of them combined. I'm just going to show you a quick highlight of some of the video, some of the techniques we highlight. So those were just some techniques. We saw Frenching. I can't remember now. We showed you the overview, some equipment. So you saw the bandsaw. I talk about bandsaw safety throughout. We showed tumbling. We actually show pork, or excuse me, how to make sausage with pork in. So just kind of a quick highlight of, how we show the videos. Okay, so what we just looked at is the actual courses for the individual. And we call that a learner experience. And those courses are all part of their learning path, but then there's also a few more ways that the learner interacts with the LMS. And then we're going to talk about the manager experience, because we talked about having the time to manage your employees for training, and also the reviewer experience, which helps with some of the on-the-job tactics and things that you need to illustrate. So quickly, that image right there is a picture of the learner dashboard. So they're presented with different tiles. This is all customizable. This one is the range branding. But if this is something, this is a different program besides the curriculums we showed you. But you could brand your portal and it would be unique to your customer. It could be AMP, it could be anybody, whatever we wanted to make it. Obviously, there are some fees associated with it, but it is an option as well. So we're going to talk about the manager and the reviewer experience. So not only will the learner have courses, they're very comprehensive, downloadable materials, assessments again. So that's all part of the coursework. But here in their portal, it's their own private login. It's a link. It's their own private portal. They can assess. There's different things that they can look at, the course progress, and they can click on the tile in advance. But here's where they would download their certificates. They could download their transcripts. There's a resource bucket. We pre-populate resources that we think would be beneficial. But again, this is a tile that if you were actually going to do this yourself, we could upload those type of things for you. We provide a support ticket. So if a student, we're on a lot of different internet speeds and a lot of different devices, and sometimes something gets caught up in a cache, or a student just might have a question, they can click a support ticket. Our goal is to answer that within 24 hours of a normal business day or less. And then we provide a teacher's in tile where they could actually book a 15-minute call and chat with me about something in the coursework or a mentoring kind of thing. They just need some advice. However, they feel free to use that time. So that's basically the learner experience. Now, when we think about the manager, it's like, how are we going to find the time and allocate time to see how their employees are progressing? So we're going to give you a few examples here. So the manager experience, a manager's assigned their direct reports. So that structure is probably already set up for you. So, you have a list of employees that you're responsible for. It could be 1, it could be 50, who knows? So the manager experience allows you to manage or enroll an employee in their coursework. It also allows you the ability to email them directly from the dashboard. And it also allows you to track their progress through in the coursework. So I'm going to just show you a few slides here to hopefully illustrate some of these points. All right, so if you're a manager, you are going to be signed up with a list of direct reports. Some of these folks were in the video that you saw. And this particular slide shows the people that he's responsible for. This person just happens to be a man. And then there's different ways that you can filter, do you want to see if so-and-so completed a course? You would select the select courses drop down and filter on what you would like to see. And then there's some other pre-built ways that you can sort these data based on start, progress, completion. So as I mentioned, you can enroll or message a user from this screen. If you set it up that you wanted a complete clerk before cutter, you can set that up where you enroll them yourselves and you have control of what your employees are going to see and learn at your pace. And then you can also message the person here from the message right from this window. So that would happen right here. So the manager could quickly double click on Jose, and you can see how many courses, certificates, or competencies they've completed. It just gives that quick, easy way to figure out how to manage those folks. This is the reviewer process. Experience was a little bit different than the manager. So this is how do we evaluate what they've learned in their online curriculum and apply it to the back of the house or in the shop. So we have populated a set of observation checklists that are already pre-built in. You could have different observation checklists or things, a set of criteria that you would like them to be accountable for. So yeah, that's kind of that. And this just provides you the structure to go through bit by bit on how to check off. So the learner is presented with their coursework. This is a quick snapshot of 3 of the courses of the 12 that they need to complete. So the learner is going to go over here and select beef rib cut test, and then they're going to click enroll. Once they click enroll, they're provided a slide that tells them what they're going to be assessed on. So they're going to, in this example, they're going to need to cut a 109 beef export rib. Here's some cuts that they might need to do. So after reading this, the employee might say, wait a minute, I'm not ready. So I'm going to go back and practice a little bit more or read my lessons better. And then they can click ready for review. And once that ready for review happens, it's then sent out to the reviewer or the supervisor that's going to do that. So this is going to come back and they're going to find out, they're going to say that Carrie's ready for this review. You can mark ready, or you can wait and mark ready and start the review if you're on site. The reviewer is then presented with the different types of observations or techniques that they want to evaluate to make sure that they're applying what they've learned hands-on within the meat shop. So this particular one, they could look at these different types of checklists. So here, the beef the beef export rib, we're providing them. This doesn't quite follow, but basically what we're talking about here is thickness of trim. So can the apprentice demonstrate how to effectively trim smooth straight cut? Can they hit that 1/8 to 1/4 inch tolerance of that particular cut? And if the reviewer says yes, they can add an attachment. Again, they're prompted through all this. Is a very snippet of what this really looks like. They can do pass or fail, add an attachment, and then they can create a comment, and then they could submit the review. And then the learner's going to see that they passed their beef rib cutting test, and they passed it, and then they can review those comments. So this is a way to manage the on-site apprenticeship program if this is something you're interested in. Okay, so in summary, I'm just going to go through here and so here's what we hope. So we're an approved vocational meat. Approved vocational meat cutter training. We believe that we've lowered the cost of training and education. A lot of the butchery programs that are available, and there's a lot more coming online. So this is a good way. A lot of great programs. We're not the only one, of course, but we are online, which makes us accessible through different areas, geographical areas. So if you are close to a land-grant university, great. If not, you can do these online. The on-site, on-the-job reviewer experience. So this is where if you were going to have an in-house training program or apprenticeship program, that tool is really going to help you analyze, track, and manage that process. It's centralized. It's all in one spot. It's seamless with the hands-on learning because of the curriculum that's built and the pre-populated skills assessment or observation checklist. It's structured. We provide demonstration. You can obviously track the progress, and it's consistent. So if you have somebody on the front of the house, like the one kid in the video, Damien, he was brand new. He didn't know anything, and he was working the counter, and he signed up for this program, and because of it, he learned. He learned all the basics and was able to apply to move it up into the meat cutter. And so that's just that consistent delivery. So he was able to take what he learned and then apply it to move on into the meat cutter, which also made them available when they created the meat apprenticeship program. And again, it's all web-based, it's accessible, it's flexible, it's customizable. And lastly, we believe it improves training efficiencies, it enhances the performance and confidence of the employee. It's in compliance with industry standards, meaning we use all the industry rules or IMPS, NAMPS numbers, those types of things. And the flexibility online learning allows employees to train without leaving their jobs. Now, I know not everybody, there's some rules and regulations on how employees learn. Is it on the job? Do they have to sit in front of a computer at your location? Some say yes. So if it's a slow day and you want to send somebody home an hour early, maybe instead you take that hourly wage and apply it to them working on site to learn their programs. I know some folks let them do it at home, but I don't really know all the rules and regulations of when to pay somebody for off-site training. I will leave that to you. You know, a few things. Anytime somebody learns, and this is just my opinion, even if it's, learning a new skill, employees appreciate the value of having somebody train them. I know we want them to stay. We want to retain those employees. And we've just witnessed time and time again how, meat training can really help empower somebody's lives. Like the guy in the video just talking about how prideful he was after he learned this. So, obviously this is near and dear to my heart. I have been at this my whole life. So, I hope you have found this interesting. I hope we were able to let you think differently about meat cutting training. Before we get in the Q&A and the giveaways, I just lost my train of thought. I apologize for that. Oh, goodness. I lost it. So let's just move forward. I apologize for that. All right. So we are at the point where we are going to give away 2 7-piece knife sets, like we said in the beginning. So what we're going to ask you to do, and Sam is going to help us with this, we're going to ask you to put a thumbs up or a thumbs down in the chat, and then we are going to use a randomizer and pull 2 numbers out of that list, and we're going to announce who the 2 winners are of the knife sets. So if you please give that a go, and then we'd appreciate and that. So go ahead and get entered into the drawing.
Okay, well, everybody is entering stuff in the chat. Please go ahead and leave stuff in the chat so we know that we can get you into this giveaway. We did have one question, Carrie. The question we had was, will this be available in Spanish with slides and videos?
It's not currently available in Spanish. We are trying to get that done. I'm going to be candid. It's an expensive undertaking. We have tons of video that needs to be translated. We are working on the courses, but it's not available yet. So if anybody knows of a sponsor, please let me know. We're trying to figure out how to make that happen because it is needed. Thank you for the question.
And if anybody else has a question, you can go ahead and leave that in the chat as well. And just as a reminder, just make sure you get a thumbs up or a thumbs down there so we can get you into the giveaway. And like I said, if there are any other questions, leave those in the chat as well. So let me get this random number generator queued up here. All right. So the first winner of the gift set will be Sasaki Akihito. So I am going to leave my email address in the chat. So if your name is called for one of these, please email me your address and we will get that sent out to you. And I'm going to make a note of that here. And then the second knife set will go to Rick. So congratulations to you all there. And we also have a $100 gift certificate from Bunzel. And the winner of that is M-Link. So congratulations to our winners there. And like I said, you've got my email address now at sam@amp.com. So if the three of you could send me your address, and we will get those sent off to you. I don't have any other questions in the chat at the moment, so we'll give that another minute or so. But otherwise, Carrie, thank you very much for the time, taking the time to tell us a little bit about range meat. This was a great overview of the system, and hopefully everybody will find that very helpful. As you can see, we've got all the contact information there for anybody who has more questions. And also for our attendees, we will be sending a recording, a link to the recording of this webinar to everybody within a week's time or so. So you can, view that for future reference. So with no other questions, I think we are good to go. So Sasaki, Rick, and M-Link, please email me the information at sam@amp.com. And Carrie, thank you again for taking the time to talk. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.